Michael, I talked with David Starkey very much about the history of Westminster Hall and what it represents. I want to talk to you about the actual procession itself. 10 members of the royal family there, but others, I think, waiting for them at Westminster Hall.
Nigel, we've seen extraordinary things today. We've seen historic scenes. These are historic days, and dare I say it, these are historic programmes, including your own. In the last 200 years, there have only been 7 monarchical funerals. In that time, 200 years, there have only been less than that number of solar eclipses. That's how rare this is. This hasn't happened since 1952.
Yeah.
And everybody who's witnessing this today, and there are millions of them around the world, are seeing things that could not even be imagined, except in the context of the death of a British monarch. And as you say, I mean, could it have been done with more dignity? No. Could it have been done better? No.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
And you know, I talked there to Brian Wood MC about, you know, the army, and of course he thinks they were brilliant and no one does it as well as us, and I would jolly well hope he would think that. But just think about those 10 members of the royal family, of course. You know, the King, William, Harry, they've done all this before, and I'll discuss that with Patrick Jeffson in a moment. But the 10 of them, you know, you think about any normal family, you've just lost a grandparent, you've just lost a parent, and you've then got to march through the streets of London, slow pace, with the whole of the world watching. Isn't their composure astonishing?
Absolutely. The new king, King Charles III, his 3 siblings, his sister and his 2 brothers. Then you had the Duke of Gloucester, the Queen's cousin, her nephew, Lord Snowdon, her son-in-law, Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, all of them there. And what was a lovely touch was that all the Queen's personal servants, her valets and her butlers, were there walking behind, as they would wish to do. And also, I think we have a good word for the 7 horses, because for horses to walk that slowly. Exactly. 7 beautiful black horses, led at the front by Cassius, who I understand is 18 and is about to be retired. Well, he's got something to put on his CV, hasn't it? I pulled the gun carriage that took the oak lead-lined coffin of Her Majesty the Queen from Buckingham Palace to Westminster Hall. And of course, as we had a good tutorial on the Constitution there, but what struck me about the ceremony and the speeches at Westminster Hall was that the King doesn't go there as of right. He is invited by the 2 Houses of Parliament, and he acknowledged that immediately.
Yes.
Because a constitutional monarchy is a very, very valuable thing. And it is a bulwark, it is a defence against extremism, against dictatorship, because at the end of the day, the laws have to be signed off by the monarch, and one can imagine a situation where that may stop extremism getting out of hand in this country.
Well, and it has.
Yeah.
I mean, this system that we're witnessing, all we're witnessing this week, was all put together ultimately in 1688. And there have been changes
the Bill
to
of Rights.
Yeah, but fundamentally, this is our way of doing things, isn't it?
This is pageantry with a purpose. It's not flummery. It's not a lot of fancy costumes. It emphasises the fact that this monarchy doesn't go just back to 1066 and William the Conqueror. The Queen traced her ancestry back to Alfred the Great, 8th century. That's how long, direct line. And that's terribly important with the interruption of the Commonwealth and Oliver Cromwell. And then we realised that wasn't quite for us. And even Oliver Cromwell thought about becoming king. And we restored the monarchy. It suits us. I always feel it suits the British temperament. I couldn't envisage, and I think it would be an absolutely dreadful experience, having to vote for a president. I mean, it takes 18 months in the United States. It's very rancorous and ill-tempered usually.
Yeah, but I mean, probably what we'd have is a prime minister, and then the head of state would be a dreary, puritanical, ex-Labour or ex-Conservative politician. I mean, it's too ghastly to contemplate, isn't it?
No, it is. I mean, one could think of the various candidates who would push themselves forward.
No, it's too awful.
And actually
it's too awful.
sends a shudder down. I'd much rather take a chance on the hereditary principle. Okay, sometimes you get a great king, sometimes you get a great queen, sometimes not so good. But how brilliantly has this country been served by women monarchs? Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth II. You know, Nigel, people used to say to me, do you know the Queen? And I say, no, I don't know the Queen, but she knows me. She had to know me because I was covering it from the BBC. And you know something about her? She wasn't in the slightest bit grand. The job was grand, but she was not. She was very, very modest, and she always had her mother and her sister to take her down a peg or two with some jokes and so on. And when she went around the world, that came through, because what is the essence of good manners? The essence of good manners is behaving and speaking in a certain way that other people feel comfortable and not uncomfortable. And she was able to do that.
I mean, she was
par excellence.
Yeah.
But, you know, to be able to do that in all sorts of societies. And she was hugely knowledgeable.
She was brilliant at that.